Oh, there it is. Everyone is slow to get up today. It must be the cold. I pulled out the wool sweater this morning. Happy New Year. Welcome to January 10th, 2025 Rotary. Oh, dang it. You know, I tried so hard to check all of the years, all of them. All right, well, I might as well start with it, because hopefully by the end, it'll just be 25 and we'll forget all about that. We'll be here for 365 days. All right, well, good to see everyone. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, anyway, here's the flag. And Lynn is cringing right now because she said, stop using the computer and just get on with it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. And let me try this again. We're going to do the four-way test, which is up on the wall. So there we go. All right. Please join me in the four-way test of the things that we think, say, or do as Rotarians. Is it concern? Will build goodwill and better friendships. Will be beneficial to all. And our inspiration today is Julian Kaczynski.
Good afternoon. It's a bit ironic that I've been asked to speak, at least to give a bit of inspiration because of the topic I'd like to share with you, which is silence. I don't know about the rest of you, but perhaps because Tom and I are at home more often and the television is on more often and my phone is attached to me more often, I see a lot and we're hearing a lot. And this year began with a lot of stuff going on. I don't have to recite for you all what it is. And of course, I have a grandchild in Thailand, Chiang Mai, and I love technology for that reason. I mean, I can watch her play basketball and sink shots in Bangkok, in South Korea, in Chiang Mai, and I'm a part of her life. We both are. Without that connection, it wouldn't have been. But in order to get that connection, I scroll through Facebook quite often. And I have reached the point where I no longer want to read a lot of the posts. I want to see things that build up, things that encourage, things that inspire. So if you'll forgive me, this isn't really about inspiring you. I just want to give you a suggestion of something we all might benefit from, and which I think goes perfectly with the four-way test for Rotary. And it was on Facebook. I have no idea who the Stoic Nomad is, but I like people who give common sense. And this person suggested 5 things that might help us all. The first, be silent if you don't know the full story. And I would suggest most of us never know the full story. Be silent when you feel too emotional. Ever been there? And when the mouth starts going and the feelings start flowing, it's hard to shut it off. Be silent in the heat of anger. My mother used to tell me when I went away to school, if you're angry about something, write it out as if you're writing a letter to that person, then put the letter away. Wake up the next morning and read it, and you'll probably do what you should have done in the first place, throw it out. Be silent if your words can offend a person. I like that. Could have said any person. We feel free to insult lots of people that we don't like. But that's not what he's saying. He's saying, be silent if your words can offend a person, any person. Be silent if your words would destroy a friendship. Any of you know someone who's suffering a lost friendship over ill-spoken words? Be silent. Oh, this one fits me. If you can't talk without yelling. I don't know a parent for whom that doesn't fit. And finally, be silent if you can save bonds with others. Now, one of the things that prompted me probably to reflect on that was one of my favorite scriptures from the Bible is the one that says from Isaiah, be still and know that I am God. You know, we really aren't in control. And so I would close with, I think something that maybe is inspiring, and it's not mine. Now, whether you like Jimmy Carter as a president or not, he lived a life of giving back. And his words when he ended, or he's quoted for quite often, say that he had one life to give, and he had the choice as to how he was going to give it. And I would say his words are perfect for we who are Rotarians. He said, my faith demands, and I could tell you my faith demands the same of me. Not that I always measure up, and maybe you feel the same way. Not that you always measure up, but it does demand that we do whatever we can, wherever we can, whenever we can, to make a positive difference. May the Lord bless you and me as we attempt to do just that. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you, Julian. Okay, we're gonna finish lunch, or I should say continue eating, please, and fellowship. We're gonna probably get started slightly early, so this will be a quick one. And I will put the list of upcoming dates up on the screen that you can look at, and we'll talk a little bit more about that soon, so enjoy.
Get some before a little bit of Kettering, then hopefully a lot of questions and answers. So now it's round of applause.
Thank you so much, Doug. I have to come to Rotary every once in a while just to get the dust off my badge. And I've always wondered when I come in, and I get this enthusiastic and I say, well, welcome to Rotary. I don't know if they'd be welcoming or sarcastic, but no, it's great to hear and see so many. Same. No, this is wonderful. I really would, I really consider this a informal talk among friends. So it's really, I really would like to structure it as an open question and answer session. about what we're doing in Flint at the university, of course, but more broadly about what's happening in Flint, because I think there's a lot of exciting things happening here in the city. Some of which are not commonly known, and I think probably first and foremost among those is what's happening out in Mundy Township and with Project Grid. And so I thought I would start there. Again, I talked about this, maybe start with a little bit of discussion there. The plan, what is being in the we are in the very final stages of negotiation, and I've been involved with this project probably close to 2 years now, as a number of people in the community. But what is involved, what is happening out there is really a world-class and global leader in one area. This is
Dr. Ken, would you mind using the other microphone? This kid did not hear you.
okay, good. I'm happy to. But I have to stand behind the podium.
Yeah.
So that's, I'll do my best.
That better? Okay, so that's what all the blank stares I was getting. That's what that was, okay, great. Start from the beginning. In the beginning, there was what's happening out there is actually very exciting. And then there's also a lot of there's some controversy around it, and in my remarks, I want to start by saying I'm very sympathetic to both sides of this, because it has impacts on people, and it has some negative impacts on part of our community as well. But in the main, the positives for what is happening out there has the potential to be really how much time do I have? Do I have an hour, 2 hours? 2 hours, 3 o'clock? 3 o'clock. What's happening out there really has the potential to be multi-generationally transformative for us as a community. The Mundy Township site is the primary US location, has been designated as a primary US location of a multinational global semiconductor company that unfortunately I can't talk about who specifically. From the clouds start to part and things come down and hit me on the head, I get smited for saying anything. But it's a large company whose name you would immediately recognize. Has plans to build one of the largest semiconductor fabrication facilities plants in the world. I mean, in the United States, not in the world, but in the States. It's about a $50 billion capital expenditure, all told. The project would be at its completion, and these things are built over stages over multiple years. But upon completion, to give you a sense of scale, it would be roughly 5 times the size of Buick City when it was in its heyday. It's that size of a project. They're looking at somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 jobs directly associated with the facility, and then there's construction jobs on top of it. The other thing that's very positive about a facility like this is that these are huge sunk cost investments for companies involved. So you do not pick up one of these facilities and move it to some other country. Like once it's in the ground, it has a useful lifetime that's measured in many decades. So 40 or 50 year useful lifetime, because they build it over, like I said, they build it over time. Our involvement as an institution has been really on the workforce and the technical training, because a fairly large percentage of those 10,000 employees will have technical skills, but it's not just engineers. It's along the entire spectrum of capabilities. So Mott Community College and UM Flint will also play very important roles in developing and maintaining the workforce that goes along with this. some of the investments that you're already seeing in our community, like the thing that we're all, I don't know if you are, but I'm very excited. I really miss being able to buy my 5-pound can of ravioli at Costco. That was a joke. No, but you can't, I've never seen bigger cans of tuna than I've seen at Costco. I go, how can anyone eat that much tuna in 1 week, much less one sitting? But some of the larger investments that we're seeing in our community in terms of things like the Costco, things like a lot of the housing developments that are occurring in the area are really in a very real sense hedging investments on what's going to be happening in that facility. So this has the potential of redefining the economics of not just Flint and Genesee, but this region of the state, because there's an enormous amount of follow-on development that goes along with it. You can look to places like Syracuse, New York, Phoenix, Mesa, Arizona, both locations where similarly sited facilities have gone in the past decade, and they've seen enormous amounts of economic activity and long-term growth associated with that development. Anybody have any questions, by the way? This is the open part. You can go. Yes, sir.
I'm too young to remember Buick City, sorry.
Yeah.
But, relative to the Rouge plant, is that about the same size or?
Oh, yeah, it's a similar scale to the Rouge plant. I mean, it's enormous. It's among the most technologically sophisticated types of facilities that there are out there. There is equipment in a plant like this that requires several years of education to know how to learn how to operate and to maintain over time. And these plants again are built in stages, so they build them up. They'll build a section of the plant and they'll bring it online, and then they'll start the construction of the next section of the plant. And that will incorporate the then latest technology. So they'll upgrade it. They'll bring that online. Then they'll upgrade the previous one and build the next section to the next. So you could say they kind of bootstrap their way up through successive generations of application technology so that they're always on the cutting state of the art. The initial plant would come online something in the order of 2029 was when the first stage of the plant would come online. And for production. And so there's an enormous amount of work in terms of workforce development and infrastructure development that needs to go. Yes,
I guess let's begin with the Kettering's role and the other educational facility or organizations around. How would you describe the ramp up to that? How do you where do you find students to funnel into that?
Well, if other areas of the country are any indication, the students tend to find you in some regard, because these are very rich, they become very rich centers of activity in the technical disciplines. There's a lot of students but there are a lot of students in Michigan for which this would be a very, very exciting opportunity, and would help us stem some of the bleed that we're seeing in the demographic shifts out of the state of Michigan that we're suffering from and will be suffering from for a number of years if we follow the current trends. Did that answer the question?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I may have missed this point, but where is this going to be located at?
Mundy Township. It's actually, if you think if you go up Hill Road, okay, and where Hill Road and Linden Road intersect, okay, Hill Road and Linden Road are the southeast corner of basically 1,000-acre tract of land, which is the site of that. Now, Interestingly, one of the things that we don't fully appreciate, I think, as a community, one of the things that when you're, and it's right there at the airport, yes, I mean, when you're in the community, you don't always appreciate some of the assets that you have. Large, site, selection processes for, site selection processes for large manufacturing facilities like this. They look to certified sites that have certain attributes. And in the case of semiconductors, what they're looking for is primarily power and water, as well as logistics support. They use an enormous amount of water and they use a lot of power to generate these devices. And of course, they use a lot of sand, which is the silicon is the basis for a lot of the wafer technology that they use. But they basically turn power and water into money. In terms of the fabrication of these semiconductors. The site that we have in Mundy Township as a region, that is actually one of the best industrial locations in the nation right now. There are very few industrial locations that have a higher quality and a higher level of access to facilities, to the basic needs of one of these sites, than the Mundy Township site. And it's one of the reasons that we are the short list for the location of this facility. Yes.
I'm sorry to ask a question. Are there other, you said short list, what other areas are being, you know?
No, it is the selected site. They're, I done already?
No, but I thought I could. Maybe.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Question.
You've got the mallet there. So there was actually a more than year-long down selection process. We were a finalist among 4 states in the US and 2 international locations. And that actually was down selected over time. And to which the company was evaluating all sorts of things, such as of course, the facilities available on the site. They were also looking at workforce, which is hugely important to them, and the ability to not only develop it, but sustain it and retain it over time, and other factors. And they ultimately down selected to the Mundy Township site.
Okay, Emery, then Lisa and Jennifer.
So how green will the bill be?
Well, it's, these are, I'm not probably the best one to answer that question. Okay, I can say, but these are industrial processes. So there are discharges from the process that need to be managed actively and need to be mitigated. But there are technologies to do this. The newest plants, the newest facilities of this type actually are very green plants, but it requires that you manage the processes directly, because there are, like many industrial sites, there are solvents involved in other materials, but it's also a highly constrained environment. The manufacture of semiconductors occurs in highly regulated clean room facilities. And so these are environments in which entry and exit of materials is very tightly controlled. And you can manage the industrial components and discharge of that directly. It's a little bit of a vigorous handling answer.
It's my understanding that we're only waiting to hear of the CHIPS Act.
Yeah, it's really sitting in the CHIPS Act office right now. The company has proposed to the federal government for a grant to help offset the cost of development of the facility. And they are essentially awaiting the release of that grant from the CHIPS Act, from the CHIPS office, which is in the Department of Commerce.
And that will be the decider of whether they move forward.
That will pretty much be the deciding factor as to whether they move forward or not. Because they are at this point committed to this site. If they can make the finances work, and part of that financial package, if you will, is a grant from the CHIPS office.
Going back to the timeline,
Mhm.
the completion date for the first stage looks like it's 2029. How many stages are there, and when will be the last completion date of the last stage?
I can't answer that question because I'm not privy to the details of their deployment, to their development
I
plan.
feel like maybe it's like ballpark.
Yeah, I think you would I can tell you what, not from their perspective, this is not anything official about this is my supposition about it, but I think you would probably see ongoing development for somewhere between 10 and 20 years after the initial facility comes online. Because again, the interesting thing is, one of the things that makes semiconductor manufacturing is actually a really interesting process, because it is both incredibly sophisticated technically and incredibly simple at the same time, because it is at its core a photographic process. It is, you design a wafer you design a silicon wafer in a series of masks, kind of like photographic negatives. And then you expose you have a silicon wafer, a big disc of ultra pure crystalline silicon with a photoemulsion on it. And you expose that photoemulsion to light through the negative. And then you etch it, and then you expose it again, and you build it up in layers. But it is at its core, it's a very simple process. It's really a photographic process. But in its implementation, it's not light that they're using. They're using very, what do we call hard ultraviolet radiation in this case, very often, because the scale, the resolution of the features, the lines and the structure of the mask of the negative translates to things a billionth of a meter wide. And you have to be able to do that repeatedly over very large areas with very high accuracy and very high consistency. And so a lot of the process comes down to that, being able to do that part of it. But to get more and more capacity, to make chips that have more memory or faster speed or more transistors on a chip, which we all hear about NVIDIA and all these companies, they excel at packing more and more and more on the same area of a chip, which means that the individual features have to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And when they get small enough, then you have to start dealing with quantum mechanics and physics, because they're so small that electrons start to move in ways that you don't think they would normally move, because they're moving through at the atomic level of these materials. So the complexity goes way up. The sophistication of the machines that you need to build it goes way up. And you have to keep upgrading your equipment to keep up with the state of the art. We recently, as a university, we were very pleased to receive a gift of software from the company that makes the software that you use to design these chips. We are one of 4 universities in the nation to receive this gift. The one license for this software, one seat, if you will, for the software is $2 million. And that we received a gift of 50 seats. So one of the things that we're doing is we're working with a variety of companies and a variety of organizations to help build that capability within Michigan, where people, as part of our desire to train engineers on the state-of-the-art technology. So we were very happy to do that, but it's all part of the same. Hey,
What's the impact on local students? So is this a place that will be able to hire local young people? What type of degrees would they need? What type of, I mean, when you start talking
There's-
quantum physics, I was like, ooh.
Well, there's a wide variety of needs, everything from technical staff, from technicians level staff, through to engineering staff. But there's also an enormous amount of peripheral activity that goes along with the plan itself. So it's not just workforce associated with directly in the plan, but it's also all the things that come along with it. Because it like semiconductors, like automotive, have a halo of second and third tier industries that actually cluster around it, because these are such resource and such technology intensive industries. One of the other aspects of the workforce and the need here is that people who work in facilities like this require continuous and ongoing certification and recertification. So if you're a technician or an engineer or something in one of these facilities, you really have to be recertified every year, which means that my community college, Flint and Kettering and other institutions within Michigan will all be collaborating with that workforce there and on a continuing basis. Is this interesting at all?
Oh, yeah.
It's a fascinating project. It really is.
Yeah, Doctor, what role, if any, did the fact that it's close to the airport, it's close to the freeways, 69, 75?
All those things, yeah. One thing we don't, one thing we don't always know about, like, for example, the Hill Road from Linden Road to 75, that stretch, there's a Starbucks there. It's good. Hill Road Diner is on the other side, that's where I eat lunch most of the time. Anyway, but that stretch of road is actually special. You don't think of it that way, but you know how we have in Michigan, we have a weight limit on certain times of the year when the frost, in the heat, in the spring, you can't run, wreaks havoc with construction projects because you can't run cranes on the roads during certain times of year. There is if the foundation of the road, if the substrate of the road and the road thickness is such, you can actually be exempted from that requirement. You can run traffic, all the heavy traffic on the roadway all year round, regardless of the temperature. Hill Road from 75 to Linden Road has one of those exemptions. It was built with a heavier substrate. It's right there at Bishop.
So the roads are gonna get better.
Or, no, I'm not talking about the road. I'm just saying that you can run heavy traffic on that road to the site back and forth. The power that comes into the area, there's 384 kV, big power lines that come within a mile of that site. The Caraboni pipeline is a huge component of this because that can provide enormous volumes of water to the site. So there's a number of things that we have put in place over the past years and even decades that actually play a very important role, making it an attractive location. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Please.
we need to get Jim was waiting,
Oh.
right, Jim? No, Jim wasn't waiting. Okay, one more question and then. Oh, boy.
You talked about the wafers,
Yeah.
going to build the center. Will they actually build the wafers as well?
Yeah, no, they will. I'm not sure that they'll build the substrates there. They may have that separately, but what they're doing is actually making the chips. So what you do, you have these big wafers. You do all this, lithography on. And usually it's not, the wafers themselves now are typically about 8 inches across. so they're big. And on that 8-inch wafer, you might have 100 devices on it. It is like duplicate, like a cookie cutter thing. So you make it, then you dice the wafer up. Usually with lasers, you cut it up into sections and make the individual chips. And so the wafers themselves may or may not be fabricated there. But certainly the lithography will be done there and the dicing and preparation. So what will come out of it will be the
I
finished
just know that
devices.
Hemlock Semiconductor
Mhm.
actually creates their own wafers.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not privy to their particular, that aspect of their supply chain.
Great. We're gonna do 2 more questions. We are past time, so if you have to leave, we understand. After those 2 questions, we'll close the meeting, but feel free to, if you have time.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
He can answer questions after. So we have John, Henry, and then we have Bob Crew. Those will be the last 2.
If we all promise not to tell.
I get in serious trouble, John. I get in serious trouble. I can't say, but I will just say that you would recognize their name immediately.
Being an elected official in a neighboring township, we get hit with a lot of questions as if we knew about why is it so secret of who is in charge, who's gonna build it. If you come out and drive Torrey Road down into Fenton Township, you don't have to go far to see yard signs that say no Chinese mega site.
Mhm.
And the rampant questions, and I get them as an elected official, is how is this gonna affect my home? Not only in Fenton Township, but Mundy. Some of those people have lived there 70, 80 years in the area. And here again, I'm not saying it is, but people believe because of the quietness, I'll try to use that word, of who's in charge, have already convinced them and many others that it's the Chinese.
No, it's a domestic firm.
But,
No, it's a US headquartered.
well, but, okay.
Yeah, and part of the, no, I'm not gonna say, I can't say, but it's not a foreign concern.
I don't want to argue.
Yeah, I mean, and it'll be abundantly clear if and when, everything happens, and we expect. Well, we've actually, I'm actually surprised that it hasn't happened yet, honestly, because there's some sense of urgency, I think, in the current administration to put that money in play. And so I'm actually surprised that it hasn't happened yet. But it's not. I did a lot of this work in North Carolina before I came here. I worked with a number of companies as a senior advisor to the governor there. And we located fintech companies, we located Credit Suisse to North Carolina, we located Novartis, Google, Facebook, a lot of different companies. And universally, because of their own shareholder relationships, it's the companies that insist on that anonymity, and they insist upon the confidentiality. It's not necessarily the organizations, it's the companies. In fact, early in the process, I will tell you that early in the process with this particular site, I was told by the governor's office that the company has said, if the name of the company is released by anybody who is working on the project, that would terminate or they would disqualify the state from the competition.
Well, I asked that because the mistake of who owns it, who's bringing it,
Mhm.
in the last election destroyed one of the best working township boards. And I gotta say, they're one step below mine. But, no, they were great people. And the people that defeated them run on the thought of no mysterious owner megasite. And they have been defeated. One of the people were there probably 30 years as supervisor.
Oh,
And it wasn't even close.
listen, I understand, I understand this, and if you could read some.